Alright, so in my day-to-day job, I'm sometimes asked to troubleshoot some network problems, and over the years I found a couple of tools in Command Prompt that are invaluable for this. Maybe you already know about them. I'm not going to go really in-depth about things like NSLOOKUP or anything. So these are just probably about 4 tools, so I figured I'd try something a little bit different and go over some of these tools that I use. So the first one, it's a command called ping. Ping pretty much just sends a communication from your computer to a server somewhere just saying, hey, are you there? And then it sends one back saying, yes, I'm here. So ping can be used a number of ways. So one way that you can do it is if you know the IP address of the server that you're trying to get to, you can enter it that way. So in this case, 8.8.8.8 is Google's DNS server. So if you hit enter, pings it out, and we get responses. So the first one that we got was 1089 milliseconds, which is quite a long time. I don't know why that one took so long, but the other ones are less than a second, so you don't really have to worry too much about those. But as we can see here, the packets were 4, so we sent 4 requests out saying, hey, are you there? We received 4 back saying, yes, I'm here. So with that, we know that we can reach out to Google. So now, another function of ping is that it's able to ping out if you know the exact address. So let's try wikipedia.org. Okay, so as we can see here, we're getting a response back. This IP address here, you'll notice looks a little bit different than the one we got to from Google. It was 8.8.8.8. That's called an IPv4 address. This one, it's a bit more, there's a bit more going on with it, but it's what's called an IPv6 address. It just allows for more connections. If we were to stick exclusively with IPv4, eventually we wouldn't be able to put any more things on the internet. So this just allows for way more things, I guess, out there, Internet of Things and whatnot. But that's for another time. So, another one that I commonly use, it's another function of ping. It's a flag -T. I don't know if it's actually documented what that T stands for, but the way I always remember it is until termination. So what that'll do is, as you can see with these ones, it only sends out 4 ping requests and it gets 4 back. Until termination means that it'll just keep doing it until you tell it to stop. So as you can see, it just keeps going and going and going and going. And the way to stop that is if you hit Control and C, it'll stop it. And as you can see, sent 11, got 11 back. So it didn't lose any. So we've got no packet loss, which means we are successfully able to talk out to the internet, and the internet is talking back to us. Likewise, you can also use this internally in a network. So if you have a server in your network and you want to see if that's up, you can also ping that server based on its internal IP or its server name. Either way, whatever the computer name is. Another useful tool that I really like, it's called ipconfig. And it doesn't necessarily have to be uppercase like that, but ipconfig has a couple of different flags, but one of the more common ones that I use, there's 2 of them that go hand in hand. The first one is ipconfig/release. And what that does is it releases the current IP address that's assigned to your computer's network adapter, and it returns it back to the server's DHCP pool, which means that another device can pick up that IP address, or yours can pick it back up again. But more or less, it just releases the connection that your computer has to whatever your Wi-Fi or your router is. So if I do that, so that's about what you're going to see. It more or less just means that it's been disconnected. So the next one to use along with that is ipconfig/renew. And what renew does is that it reaches out back to your DHCP server and it says, hey, I need an IP address. So it's really useful after using the release function to release your IP address. Now this one says, hey, I need an IP address. I need to be able to connect to the internet or to the network. So after doing that, let's see. Network disconnected. Okay, so this is what it should look like. It takes a second, and then you should be getting IP address information right here. As you can see, I've got both an IPv6 and an IPv4 address. You won't necessarily have both, but in this case I do. So, like I said, release, it says, I don't need this IP address anymore, and it gives it back to whatever your DHCP pool is. ipconfig/renew says, hey, I need an IP address. So obviously after you've given away yours, now you need another one if you want to connect back up. So the one more function that I like to use of ipconfig is called flush DNS. So DNS is the software backend that tells your computer how to translate between an IP address and a website. So let's see, if we use let's say google.com. So we can see that Google's IP address is this 2607 F8B0, this IPv6 address here. So if you were to type into a browser, you should be able to get to Google by typing that in. Now, what your computer uses to differentiate between the IP address and the actual name, google.com, is DNS, the domain name service. Like I said, all it does is translate between the IP address that it's trying to get to and whatever the website or the server name is. So, let's see, ipconfig/flush DNS, that clears out your DNS cache. So instead of having to look up, oh, what's the IP address for Google every single time you go to visit Google, instead it just says, oh, well, I already know that Google is 8.8.8.8, and it's not. That's what their DNS is. But instead of having to look up what the IP address for a website is every single time, it instead saves some in memory so that it says, I already know that one. So what flush DNS will do is it clears out that memory so that if you're having trouble reaching out to websites, this can be a useful tool to restore those connections. And there it is. Successfully flushed the DNS resolver cache. So anyway, those are a few of the tools that I use daily. There's, like I said, ping with a couple of different flags attached to it, ipconfig with some different flags attached to it. So anyway, hopefully these help. You can get way more in depth than this. Networking just by its nature is much more in depth than I really get in a daily basis. But yeah, hopefully these help you. And maybe the next time your grandmother isn't able to connect to a website, you can break some of these out and she'll think that you're some sort of a wizard. So anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.